What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Apple Watches for 2016. So we have two lines, Series 1 and Series 2. The Series 1 is essentially the original Apple Watch with the 50% faster dual-core CPU that's coming with the Series 2. But the Series 2, starting at $369, is a much more significant upgrade, with a bigger battery, a display that is more than twice as bright as the previous generation, waterproofing which allows you to go swimming with your Apple Watch for the first time, and a GPS antenna built in, which means you can take your Apple Watch running without the aid of your iPhone to keep track of your location. Now when it comes to Series 1, it's only available in the aluminum casing in 4 different colors: silver, gold, rose gold, and space gray. It's also only available with the rubber sport bands. So the nylon bands from the Sport from last year are only available on the Series 2, but of course you can buy them separately. Now the Series 1 watch, like the other aluminum watches, comes in this long skinny box, but it's been simplified from the original Apple Watch. Gone is the hard plastic casing that they used to come with. So the first thing we get is our accessory packet, which contains everything from our watch bands to the charger to the paperwork. So first up we get some basic paperwork, which explains how to use the smartwatch, how to disconnect the bands, and how to fasten the sport band properly. And on the other side, we have some tips on how to use watchOS 3 and set it up for the first time. And next up, we get the accessory packet, which is a tri-fold design that folds out. So you can see our small band. So this allows us to resize the sport band to our wrist. So the large band comes pre-installed with a 42mm, but you get the small band in the box if you need it smaller. And then lastly, we get our charging plug. So this is actually wrapped around inside this sleeve. So you just pull it out. So good luck getting it back in there if you ever need to. But what you won't find here is our USB power adapter, so this does not come with one. So you're gonna have to borrow one from either your iPhone or purchase it separately. And lastly, at the bottom of the box, we have our watch, which is wrapped in plastic. We can go ahead and peel this off so we can take a close look around. They even give us plastic covering up the rivet at the other end of the band. So when it comes to the unboxing of the Apple Watch Series 2, it depends on which one you get. In this case, I have the stainless steel model, which has a much more premium experience. In this case, I have the space black model with the Milanese loop 42mm, which is the same version I had from the previous generation, so we're going to compare them side by side. So first up, we have this paperwork packet. So if we pull that out, inside we'll find a quick start guide that explains how to use the Apple Watch, how to charge it, and how to swap out the bands if we need to. On the other side, we'll find some tips for watchOS 3, and of course, I have a full video on that as well if you want to check that out, linked in the description. At the bottom of the box, we get a very familiar 5-watt Apple charger, and then we have our magnetic inductive charging puck in the bottom of the box, which connects to the wall adapter. So in this case, because I have a stainless steel Apple Watch, this has a stainless steel or brushed stainless steel puck, so it's a much more premium design. So getting to the case, first thing we need to do is remove this plastic covering it. So we have this little tab along the side, and that allows us to peel it off. And then we're presented with this very glossy white and heavy duty case for the Apple Watch. So we can go ahead and pull off the lid, and the first thing you'll see here is our space black Apple Watch with a Milanese loop. And you can see the box itself is lined in velvet to protect it. So it's a very nice premium experience. So this space black model is actually a premium above the standard stainless model. So you pay a little more to get this, but I definitely like this look. It's a great look for the new jet black iPhone 7 as well. So lifting the watch out of the box, you can see it's covered in this plastic, and we can go ahead and peel this off. So once again, our stainless steel Apple Watch has this very nice polished finish. The cover glass is actually sapphire glass, so it has this very distinctive jewel-like reflection to it, which I think looks very nice, but it is more reflective than the Onyx glass on the aluminum watches. But the sapphire glass is more scratch resistant. In fact, after over a year of wearing one of these watches every day, I have not scratched the glass on it yet. Now when it comes to the Series 1 watch, it looks exactly identical to the original watch. The only way to tell the difference is if you look at the text on the back, which indicates Series 1. Now for the most part, at first glance, the Series 2 looks a lot like the Series 1, but the quickest way to identify this as a Series 2 is by looking at the 2 holes along the side. So instead of a single microphone, we have a microphone plus an air vent. So it kind of looks like a dual microphone, which is what I thought it was at first, but Apple identifies one of them as an air vent. Now if you look closer, you'll see some other differences. So for example, on the back you'll see reference to Series 2, in addition to the relocation of the serial number, which is now inside the watch band clasp. So if you remove the watch band, you'll actually see the serial number inside instead of on the back of the device. They've also changed up some of the text, so you'll see reference to the GPS antenna built in addition to the 50-meter water resistance. And if you look at the watches side by side, you'll see that the speaker grill has also been redesigned for the new waterproofing measures, and it's been repositioned, but that's only noticeable if you're looking at them side by side. Also side by side, you'll notice that the new Apple Watch Series 2 is thicker than the previous generation. It's also slightly heavier, but it's very minimal. You can see the thickness is added entirely by the display. So you'll notice if you look side by side that the display is thicker, or the glass and bezel is thicker than the original Apple Watch. The back of the watch once again features a ceramic back panel with sapphire glass lenses for the heart rate monitor. Now the Series 1 gets the cheaper composite back panel, but if you get a Series 2 aluminum watch, that one comes with the ceramic back panel as well. Now unfortunately, if you're looking closely here as well, you'll see that the back panel is already scratched up by the Milanese loop. This is a problem I've always had with the Milanese loop because the back is magnetic. It automatically attracts the loose Milanese, which can cause it to scratch when you pull it away. It's not a big deal. It doesn't cause any operational issues, but it's definitely a visual problem. Now, when it comes to the Retina OLED displays on these watches, they're the same resolution as the previous generation, but they're twice as bright on Series 2, which is really only noticeable if you're outdoors with a bright light shining on the watch. So you can't easily reproduce this in all situations. You kind of lose control of that. It's all handled through auto brightness. It definitely makes a big impact. The display is much more visible outdoors in bright sunlight conditions. In fact, Apple says this display goes all the way up to 1000 nits. That's extremely bright, twice as bright as the 450 nits of the previous generation. The other thing that makes the display look quite a bit better on the Series 2 is the fact that it's much closer to the glass, so there's less refraction. You no longer see that gap between the glass and the display, which was quite evident, especially outdoors. Now, all Series 2 watches are waterproof up to 50 meters, so this reveals itself with some additional software features that takes advantage of it, including some workouts. So we now have pool swimming and open water swimming, which can keep track of your heart rate. Now, when you activate one of these modes, it turns off the display because the touch display cannot be used underwater. So if you want to interact with your display, you have to use one of the buttons along the side. And once you exit one of these exercises, this will actually initiate a purge for the speaker grill. So this will actually purge water from the speaker, and it actually emits a very distinctive tone, and if you look very closely at it, you can actually see it emitting the water from the speaker. Now you can also enable water lock from the control center by swiping up on the watch face. So this locks the screen so it doesn't go haywire when you're swimming. This also means when you exit this mode, this will emit a tone that ejects the water as well. So in terms of performance, there really is no difference between the Series 1 and Series 2, and I think the Series 1 is definitely a compelling bargain at this point. It's still water resistant, but you don't want to take this one swimming, and it has most of the features of the Series 2 except for waterproofing and those fitness activities. Of course, it doesn't get that brighter display, but I'd hardly call it dim or unusable in daylight conditions. But if fitness is your main priority, you definitely want to focus on the aluminum watches because they're significantly lighter than the stainless steel watches. But of course, these stainless steel watches are much more fashionable and certainly more expensive, but they come with higher quality materials like the virtually scratch-proof sapphire glass, although the body itself is certainly scratchable. So in terms of performance, you can expect the same performance on both the Series 1 and Series 2, which is noticeably improved over the original watch. Although watchOS 3 did a lot to improve performance on all watches, and the differences here aren't necessarily night and day. Now, the areas where the performance seems to have made the most gains is in Siri, which is now much more responsive and reliable. There's also gains in terms of graphically intensive apps like Messages, which has a scribble keyboard, which works much better on the newer hardware. But the real benefit comes to third-party apps that can take better advantage of all the processing power that's behind the new S1 and S2 chips. So I think the Apple Watch with Series 1 and Series 2 is a much easier recommendation to make than it was when it first launched. But if you're an existing Apple Watch user, I'm not sure these changes are significant enough unless you're really bothered by the slower performance, or if you really need that GPS antenna or swimming capabilities for your fitness. Now, the increased thickness is not noticeable at all, and the battery life is unchanged because we have a brighter display, which kind of offsets that. But it easily makes it through nearly 2 days of use between charges, although you probably want to charge this nightly to make sure that second day is uninterrupted. Alright guys, so that's going to do for me in this video. I do have some additional Apple Watches coming, including the Apple Watch Edition, which is now ceramic. I'm really looking forward to that one. In addition to the cheaper Nike Sport, which is an aluminum Series 2, which will finally give me a chance to take a look at what the aluminum Series 2 watch looks like compared to the Series 1, so stay tuned for those videos. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and I'll see you again in the next video.